All right. Hey, everyone. This is Rudy. It's February 27th, the year 2017. And I just, for the purposes of documentation, right, just so everybody understands exactly what's going on, maybe you can help or just be aware of things that are being tried and the results of those efforts. But Schaeffer Cox wrote a letter, and it's called the Trump Pardon Strategy. There's lots of action items in that letter. Action item number 4 says, we need a letter from retired head of the state troopers past in Fairbanks, Mr. Hal Hume, that says, I was a state trooper all my life. I know Schaeffer and his family well. Schaeffer supports honest law enforcement, and honest law enforcement supports Schaeffer. I know this case, and I was close to Schaeffer leading up to his arrest. He's not violent or a criminal or dangerous. He's a God-fearing man who cares about his family and his country. Any claims that he would plot some kind of crime are all lies and fake news. He's an innocent man. This is just anti-Second Amendment politics. It's only right to let him out. So that's what Schaeffer Cox thinks that Hal Hume would say about him if we could contact Mr. Hal Hume. Also, I want to remind you guys that the trial transcripts, right, from, I think this is day 15 of the trial by jury of the federal trial, Hal Hume was brought in to testify. Okay, and this is the transcripts that we got for the court appearance, and you'll see right here, it says Hume direct, right? And then it says the court, they swear in Hal Hume. It says he gives his name. He lives in Fairbanks, Alaska. They asked him to spell his name. He says that he knows Francis Schaeffer Cox. He knows him because at church, he says primarily I met Schaeffer. If I'm not correct, at church, his father was my pastor. I believe our first encounter was at church, casually. And then he also goes to say, I am approaching 80 years old. So this is 6 years ago. So that means Hal Hume is like 86 or 87 right now. And he goes on, they try to get him to testify against Schaeffer. I don't see that he said anything negative about Schaeffer. Just says that he worked as a ranch hand in Montana. He went into the Army in the Korea War. He came home and got involved in retail sales and photographic equipment. He came to Alaska in 1956. He worked as a teamster for the SIG World Storage and Transfer. So he's an older gentleman, served, I think, in the Korean War in the Army, possibly. He's been to the police academy. And anyway, obviously he's been around the block a time or two, right? He might have even served as the head of the Alaska State Troopers. And he knew Schaeffer Cox's father as a pastor, and he knew Schaeffer Cox. So Schaeffer's correct in saying that this man knew him. Matter of fact, if you go to page 13, let me go to page 13. Here we go. Traverso, who is Schaeffer's lawyer, asked Mr. Hal Hume, what did you men decide to do after did you draft any resolutions? What did you decide to do after these meetings to discuss these issues? And then Hal Hume goes on to say there was no conclusion to these meetings. They were just general discussion meetings. We didn't form anything. We didn't decide to form anything at those meetings. And then Traverso says, okay. And then Hal Hume says, it was just a general discussion of a group of men. How do we take care of our families if we get into this kind of situation, the kind of situation where government services break down, I would imagine. Okay, are you familiar with the Alaska Peacemakers Militia? I remember that name being raised as a possible name of a group that Schaeffer had talked about possibly forming. Okay, there had been no move forward during those meetings to form, as I recall. This is just a few years ago. My participation was pretty limited. Then Traverso ends his questions. So Hal Hume obviously knew Schaeffer, knew his dad as pastor, and it would be good to get a hold of him for comment, right, for some sort of public comment. This is a letter that a Schaeffer supporter sent to the Alaska State Troopers, right? This supporter says, email for Hal Hume. Here's the email right here. Hello, I am trying to get a hold of Hal Hume. Would you be able to get him this message. I am a dear supporter of Francis Schaeffer Cox, a current inmate being held in an Illinois prison. Schaeffer is currently working on an appeal. He requested an update statement from Mr. Hume. I would greatly appreciate this. Please contact me with any questions. Thank you so much. And then I edited out the name and number. But the Captain Dan Lowden of the Alaska State Troopers, AST Director's Office, DPS, I guess that stands for Department of Public Safety, responded back. And here's what they responded back with, and I want you guys to see this publicly. The troopers are not able to assist you with this. This is something that should be handled by Mr. Cox's attorney. And then it's signed Captain Dan Lowden, Director's Staff, Alaska State Troopers, 5700 East Tudor Road, Anchorage, Alaska, 99507. And then he has the audacity to continue to quote these words, which obviously mean nothing. Loyalty, integrity, courage, compassion, leadership, and accountability. So that's what he had to say as an innocent man sits in prison for 6 years and will continue to rot in hell and rot in jail. I shouldn't say hell, but rot in jail for the next 20 years if people don't stand up and say the right thing. And you would think at least he could forward the message along. But no, he's not even going to do that. He just says, the troopers are not able to assist you with this. This is something that should be handled by Mr. Cox's attorney. So obviously he feels very comfortable with Schaeffer Cox sitting in prison, and he doesn't want to get involved. So Captain Dan Lowden, your response has been documented. For anybody that hears this, if you know any way whatsoever to get a hold of former Alaska State Trooper Hal Hume, my guess is he's around 86 years old right now. We would love to get a hold of him and get a public statement on what he thinks about Schaeffer Cox sitting in prison for 26 years. Thank you for your time.